It's George Conway, President and Executive Director of the Anti-Psychopath PAC. George, thank you for being here. Look, you have, in short order, very much as we've seen the turnaround with the Harris campaign emerging, the Biden campaign receding, you have in this same space of time been able to figure out a few triggers that you have through your work, knowing Donald Trump as you know, how should we say, making, the poking sounds and noises around him. How do those types of efforts coalesce the general excitement around the general excitement that we see right now? Because you have a lot of things happening, but they all seem to be happening in the same direction towards clarifying this race between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris.
Well, I think Congressman Clyburn put his finger right on it. He basically said people are exhausted or tired. I don't remember the exact word he used, but they're tired and exhausted by Donald Trump's chaos, by his weirdness, by his bizarre behavior, and they want to talk about the future. And that is the amazing contrast that we've just seen flower in just less than 2 weeks with Kamala Harris. She's the new and exciting and younger candidate. The Democrats have always been better at that, with John Kennedy and Clinton and Carter and Obama. And we've got this energy on one side, and then this other side you just have insanity. And people need it. And what we've been trying to do is to remind, with the Anti-Psychopath PAC, we're trying to remind people of the craziness and the chaos because they've forgotten about it. A lot of people have forgotten about it because Donald Trump was deplatformed after January 6th. He's been off the radar screens. People haven't been watching his speeches in full bloom as they might now. And now they're saying, oh gosh, I remember. Oh God, how can we go? I can't do this anymore. Even the people, even Trumping people, have to be exhausted by this.
Well, that's a good point because they are, believe it or not. They don't like to speak about it too much publicly, as we know they're not good at that over the last 6 or 7 years, sort of expressing publicly what they tell us privately. But there is a certain level of exhaustion with all of that on the GOP side. Certainly, the MAGA contingent is all in, but you're sort of leveling up the weird argument around Donald Trump at the same time reminding voters, okay, this is what he said. This is what he was like. These are the things that he proposed, whether it was putting kids in cages or whatever. Is it getting under his skin?
Yeah, absolutely is getting under his skin. He issued a Truth Social post attacking me personally for taking out ads that he saw and did not like, and he got angry at Fox News because we put a lot of those ads on Fox News.
But they ain't going to turn down the money. So.
Well, they ain't going to turn down the money. Certainly local cable channels won't do it.
Transactional.
And we got it. Just to be on the safe side, so in case he goes into the clubhouse, we did some on ESPN and the Golf Channel. So he's coming in from the front nine to splash water on his face, and he can watch his craziness on television, courtesy of us. So that's what we're trying to do. We're doing that. That's part of. I mean, look, we have 4 purposes. One is to educate the public on his mental illness, his mental disorders, his psychological disorders. 2 is to explain why those make him dangerous. He's a clown, and people laugh at him, and that's part of the reason why they don't take it seriously. Right. So but he is an ill man and should not be anywhere near any lever of power. 3rd is to get the press to talk about what they have consistently refused to talk about. I mean, there's a book written by a former executive editor of the Washington Post. They said, "Oh no, we're not going to talk about Trump's personality disorders." And 4th is to trigger him into demonstrating those disorders. And we've done it. And in his, after he had that disaster in front of the National Association of Black Journalists, he had a rally that night, and he started talking about, oh, these people want to say that I'm cognitively deteriorating, and then he talked about Hannibal Lecter again, about Lecter being a psycho. It's like, well, those are words we were using. And, he's got in it. If you get in his head about a specific criticism, about something he's sensitive about, and he knows he's a fraud. He knows he's a pathological liar. That's why he didn't want to get fact-checked the other day in Chicago. Right. He knows he's not that smart. That's why he always says he's a stable genius and pretends to be the smartest person in the world. He knows he knows he is not these things he has professed to be. I mean, on that point, about
sort of projecting this air about him. You had this interesting interview with Maria Bartiromo in which she asked him about debating. Let's take a quick listen to that because it feeds into what you're saying.
Are you going to debate her?
Well, I want to. We're leading in the polls, it seems, by quite a bit still. She's better than he is, but I think ultimately she'll be worse than him. She's more radical than him. He was a phony.
I got one word for that. Wuss. He is a wuss. He is scared of her. She will run circles around him, and he knows that.
He knows it.
He knows that. And all she's got to do, I mean, she's got the perfect happy warrior demeanor to do this, is make fun of him to his face. She's talking about, say it to my face. Well, she will say it to his face. And then when he says something insane, she will just roll her eyes and laugh and cackle, and it will make him look incredibly weak. She will destroy him.
George Conway.